parents let my brother and his family move in for free while I pay them rent, but I secretly move out and tell them to enjoy the freeloaders. I've spent my whole life wondering why my parents can't love me the same way they love my brother, and now, I think I don't even want to know the reason anymore. My name is Mason, and I'm 22 years old. Like many people my age, I dream of being successful. I'm passionate about software design and I've been studying for a degree in that field. Plus, I work part-time as a software developer, and most of what I earn goes into starting my own company. That's why I still live with my parents. Since the university is close to their house, I save on transportation and other costs. But I'm not living off them. I pay $550 a month as my share of rent and household expenses. So, my life was going pretty well, and I thought that in a few years I'd be close to reaching my dream. However, everything started to fall apart when my brother, who's 23, decided to move in with us along with his whole family. Don't get me wrong, I love my brother, but he's been a real problem since we were kids. Despite everything, he was always my parents' favorite. From a young age, he had a knack for getting into one mess after another. Whether it was breaking curfew, skipping class, or getting into fights at school, Cam always managed to create chaos wherever he went. Yet, despite all this mess, my parents always had a soft spot for him. No matter how bad things got, they would quickly forgive him, leaving me wondering what I had to do to earn that same unconditional support. He always found a way to avoid the consequences of his actions, and somehow, everything ended up falling on me. Whether it was breaking something valuable or getting into trouble at school, I was always the one who had to clean up after him. Cam got married when his girlfriend found out she was pregnant. It all happened so fast. One minute he was talking about wild parties and late nights, and the next, he was moving in with her family and getting ready to be a dad. My parents were there for him the whole time, supporting him emotionally and financially. They even helped him and his wife set up their own place, hoping that a fresh start would make him more responsible. A year ago, Cam and his family moved out, taking a generous sum from both our parents and his wife's family to start a business. And now, with his return, things have only gotten worse. Cam claims his business is booming. He brags about landing contracts with big companies in the construction industry, acting like he's some kind of tycoon. He says he's just waiting on a $2 million payment, exaggerating his success more with every retelling. I found it hard to believe, given his track record of responsibility, but my parents quickly bought into his story, listening with wide eyes as if he were a smooth-talking salesman. They just sat there, nodding in admiration while he recounted his supposed adventures. Meanwhile, I was watching from the sidelines, feeling like a ghost in my own home. When Cam announced he'd sold his house to invest in a big contract, I almost choked on my dinner. And of course, once the money comes through, he plans to buy a mansion in the richest suburb of New York, saying that our whole family should move in with him. My parents are ecstatic, talking about how this is finally the big break they always knew Cam would achieve. They're on cloud nine, ready to follow him into this new chapter, oblivious to the potential pitfalls that might lie ahead. Meanwhile, I can't help but wonder if this supposed success isn't just another one of Cam's schemes, a way to dodge responsibility while dragging everyone else down with him. As Cam waits for his windfall, he and his family contribute nothing to the home. They don't pay rent, they don't help with groceries, and they've practically taken over the house. His two kids, whom I love because they're just kids and aren't to blame for the adults' actions, only add to the chaos. The house is always loud, messy, and a far cry from the calm environment I need to focus on my studies and work. I even remember walking into the living room one day, dodging toys scattered everywhere, feeling like I was stepping into a war zone instead of my own home. I used to appreciate those quiet moments when I could just sit and code, but now those moments seem like a distant memory. It's like my sanctuary has been stripped away and replaced by chaos and disorder. The worst part is that Cam and his wife act like they can boss me around, telling me to run errands, yet they never offer to pay for anything. I feel like a servant living in the house instead of a brother or even a son. They've taken over the kitchen, leaving their mess for me to clean up, and their kids run around interrupting my attempts to concentrate. It's frustrating and exhausting dealing with their constant demands while I'm trying my best to be responsible and make it on my own. It might have been bearable, until last week, when Mom walked into my room. At first, she started talking about how the household expenses had gone up now that Cam had moved in with his family. From bills to food, everything was costing more. Deep down, I knew what she was going to say, but I never imagined she would actually tell me that I had to pay more on top of what I already paid. When I asked her if she'd asked Cam the same thing and if he was going to start paying rent, she just got upset and left the room. The next day at breakfast, Dad said the same thing while getting up from the table, not giving me a chance to protest. I looked at my brother, who returned my gaze with shame and then kept eating. The following night after work, I went straight to talk to Mom. I told her I was barely earning enough and couldn't afford to pay any more than I already was. Since then, both Mom and Dad have stopped talking to me. They're giving me the cold shoulder, as if I'm a freeloader or something. Do you know what hurts the most? Watching how they treat Cam versus how they treat me. Cam gets away with everything, and despite that, they never hold him accountable for anything. Meanwhile, I'm paying rent, working hard in college, and saving for my future, but it seems none of that matters. I don't want to admit it, but sometimes I feel like my efforts are invisible to them. Like no matter what I do, it's never enough in their eyes. I used to think maybe I wasn't trying hard enough, that if I just achieved more, they'd finally notice me. But now, after years of waiting for that approval, I realize that it might never come. I've tried talking to my parents, but every conversation ends with them changing the subject or just completely ignoring me. They're so wrapped up in Cam's big plans and promises of a grand house and a luxurious life that they don't see what's happening right in front of them. They don't see how much it hurts to be overlooked, how hard it is to work so much and still feel like you're not enough. And the worst part is, even though Cam is older, he acts as if I owe him something. He doesn't lift a finger to help around the house, leaving me to take on extra responsibilities without any recognition. I've even thought about moving out, but that would cost even more, and right now, my financial situation just can't handle it. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe. New stories every day. Update 1. Hey, it's Mason again. I wanted to update you all on my situation since my last post got a ton of comments. Seriously, thanks for all the support and suggestions. I really appreciate hearing everyone's opinions, even those who disagreed with me. Many said I should just move out, but honestly, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm still finishing college and saving for my future, and the thought of paying rent and bills on my own just stresses me out because I couldn't cover everything. Now, not only is the house a mess, but even my room has turned into a living zoo. I can't even begin to explain how invasive my brother's family has become. For example, the other day I walked into my room and found my niece's bed set up in one corner, without any warning or even asking me, just there in my space. I get that kids need a place to sleep, but I never signed up to be their babysitter or have my room turned into an impromptu playroom. When I confronted Cam about it, he just shrugged and said it was easier for everyone. Easier for who? Not for me. And it gets even crazier. Yesterday, I caught Cam's wife rifling through my stuff. I walked in and found her digging through the drawer in my desk. What's her deal? I felt violated, like they were invading my personal space. When I asked her why she was doing that, she just smiled and said she was looking for a pen. A pen? Seriously? There's a whole house full of pens, including one on the desk downstairs, and she couldn't just ask me for one? It was outrageous and honestly, super weird. I didn't want to blow up over something that seemed trivial, but it felt like they were treating my space, my room, as if it were a common area. That night, I tried to get some rest after a long day of classes and work, hoping for a little peace. But no sooner had I sat down to study than the kids burst into my room, dragging their toys with them. I love them, but I need to focus on my studies. I had to explain that my room was off limits, but it was like talking to a brick wall. They just didn't get it, and Cam didn't even step in. Instead, he just laughed like it was no big deal. It really frustrated me that my brother wouldn't even set boundaries for his own kids. The last straw was when I overheard Cam talking to our parents. I thought I could trust them, but I heard him say that I needed to be more supportive of the family during these tough times. That's when I realized they'd been talking about my savings behind my back. I've been diligently saving for my future business, and hearing him suggest that I should hand over my hard-earned money because, quote, I don't know why you save so much if you could be contributing to the family, just made my blood boil. When I confronted him, he looked at me as if I were the selfish one. He argued that with all the extra expenses of having them here, it was my duty to help out. I couldn't believe it. I've been working hard to save for my future, and now he expects me to just give it all up because of his choices. It felt incredibly unfair. I refused to let him make me feel guilty into giving up my dreams. In that moment, I realized I had to set some serious boundaries. I'm not responsible for his decisions or his financial problems. I've spent years focusing on my own path, and I'm not going to let them derail my plans just because they think I owe them something. So I took a deep breath and told Cam that I couldn't help out financially, and that he needed to respect my space and privacy. I hope this leads to a better understanding, but it's hard to say if anything will change. For now, I'm standing firm on my decisions and prioritizing my goals, even if it means facing more drama with my family. Either way, thanks again for the support. I'll come back with more if things get resolved or if there's more to share about Cam and the rest of the family. Update 2. I wish I had better news, but things have only gotten worse, and if you thought everything was already complicated before, now it's reached a level one never even imagined. After my last update, the emotional manipulation from my parents went from bad to downright unbearable. It wasn't just about paying a little extra here and there anymore. Now they were openly expecting me to hand over my savings. Apparently, the money Cam was supposed to get still hasn't come through, and every day they find new ways to corner me about helping out the family. My mom kept repeating, like a broken record, that family always helps family. Everything revolved around Cam, always. The constant emotional blackmail was exhausting. And then, the real bombshell dropped a few days ago. My parents got a call from my brother-in-law. I was in my room, trying to block out the usual chaos from Cam's kids, when I heard raised voices. At first, I couldn't make out much, but the conversation quickly heated up. My mom was pacing around the house, and she sounded, well, devastated. I went downstairs to see what was happening, and that's when I learned the truth, the whole truth about my brother. It turns out Cam had lost everything a long time ago. That big shipment he said was going to pay him millions? It was a lie. In reality, he had invested all his money in a shady company months ago and got completely scammed. The whole story about waiting for a huge payment was nothing but a made-up tale. But that wasn't all. He'd been living with his in-laws for months, taking advantage of them. When they finally got fed up, they kicked him and his family out. That's when he showed up at our house, spinning more lies about his so-called success. I couldn't believe it. Part of me always suspected that his big business was too good to be true, but I never thought it would go this far. Cam literally moved in with us because he had nowhere else to go, and instead of owning up to it, he kept lying, dragging all of us, including me, into his mess. I thought my parents would be furious when they found out. I was expecting some kind of confrontation, maybe even that they'd finally see through all of Cam's excuses. But instead, they were devastated in a way I didn't expect. Rather than holding Cam accountable for his actions, they turned to me. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about how Cam had ruined everything. It was about how I needed to step up and save the family. My dad sat me down after the call and made it crystal clear. Your brother is in deep, Mason. This is the moment you need to step in and help. He said that I'd been saving for years and now it was my turn to give something back to the family. You can always start your business later, he insisted, but my brother needed that money now. Just like that. It's heartbreaking. I'm stuck in this impossible situation where, no matter what I do, I'm seen as the bad guy. If I give up my savings, all my hard work disappears, and I'll have to start from scratch. But if I refuse, my parents see me as selfish, insensitive, and ungrateful. And let's be real, even if I gave Cam the money, it wouldn't fix anything. He's proven time and again that he can't be trusted with money. Deep down, I know that handing over my savings won't help him get on his feet. It'd just be a temporary band-aid for a problem that runs much deeper. So here I am, caught between a rock and a hard place, wondering what the hell I'm supposed to do next. My parents keep pressuring me, and Cam acts like he hasn't done anything wrong. Either way, I don't think this is my last update, far from it. Update 3. Today, I'm finally moving out of my parents' house. I don't care what happens next. This might be my last update. I'm not sure, but I just needed to vent completely. As everyone knows, my brother, and honestly, my whole family, has treated me horribly, and I've had enough. Mom and Dad not only forgave Cam and let him continue living in the house, but they also keep pressuring me to pay more and hand over my savings for my older brother, who supposedly always looked out for me. What the hell do they mean by that? One thing's for sure. They're never going to change or come to their senses. Cam claims he's finally taking life seriously and is ready to take on responsibilities. According to him, he's come up with a new business idea with a friend and just needs a small investment, which he promises to pay me back as soon as the business takes off. The only thing that should take off is his lazy ass off the couch so he can get a real job. I don't get how my parents always fall for this. He might be their golden child, but to me, he's nothing more than a selfish man who only cares about himself. So, unable to deal with this crap any longer, I decided to just leave and move out. Plus, I'm keeping this a secret for now. I feel like if I told my family right away, they'd do everything in their power to stop me. I looked at some studies in rooms for rent, but none fit my budget. Honestly, I need something I can afford along with the bills and groceries, and I still want to save as much as I can for my dream company. The good news finally came yesterday. A friend of a friend, who's an immigrant, is looking for cheap apartments to rent. I figured if he agreed to be my roommate, we could afford a small studio and even split the bills and groceries. This morning, we met up and discussed everything. The great news is that he already found a place, and he needed a roommate just like me. The place is a little far from the university, but it doesn't matter, I can walk just fine. The emotional torment and blackmail I endured at home are finally over. Tonight, I'm moving out in secret. I can't wait to see their faces when they find out I'm gone. Wish me luck, guys. Update 4. So, here's the promised update on what happened after I secretly moved out. Brace yourself, because if you're on my side, you're gonna be pretty pissed off. To recap, after weeks of putting up with the madness at home, I decided to leave without telling anyone. It wasn't an impulsive move at all. I had been quietly searching for a place for a while, making sure it was affordable, close enough to work, and worked with my college schedule. After a lot of effort, I found the perfect spot, thanks to a friend of a friend who was looking for a roommate. I didn't tell my family about any of it because I knew that even hinting at my plan would get me bombarded with emotional manipulation and dramatic scenes. So, I set everything in motion quietly, making sure my move went unnoticed. I started packing slowly, stashing my stuff in the trunk of my car, waiting for the day I could leave without any confrontations. I wanted to get out, but I didn't want the inevitable drama that would follow if I announced it. The day finally came. I had everything I needed. I signed the lease and headed over to my new place. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was mine, and that was all that mattered. The first night in my own space felt like finally taking a deep breath after months of suffocation. The silence, oh, it was beautiful. In the days that followed, I carried on with my usual routine, going to work and college as if nothing had changed. I knew it wouldn't be long before someone noticed I wasn't around, but I had no intention of revealing my move until absolutely necessary. Then, the inevitable happened. One night, my mom called, complaining about some issues at the house and casually reminding me about the rent increase I was supposed to contribute. She asked where I was and why I hadn't been home the past few days. It wasn't that she cared about me being there. It was all about my money missing from around the house. I could practically hear the expectation in her voice, the same old assumption that I'd always be carrying that financial burden. That's when I broke the news. I calmly told her, I don't live there anymore. There was silence on the other end of the phone, so I added, enjoy the freeloaders now. The silence lasted for a moment before it all exploded. I couldn't believe I had left without telling anyone. She kept going on about how I was abandoning the family and leaving them financially ruined. She asked how I could be such an ungrateful, selfish child, especially after everything they've done for me. She made it clear that they had been counting on my money to keep the house afloat, and now I was just leaving when they needed me the most. But it didn't affect me. I was done. Tired of the emotional manipulation, tired of the blackmail, and tired of being the scapegoat. My mom tried every way possible to pressure me, telling me I had betrayed the family and that they wouldn't know how to get by without my help. But I stood my ground. I reminded her that I'd been contributing more than my fair share for too long, and it wasn't my fault that Cam had ruined his own life. The days that followed were tough for my family. I blocked everyone, right down to a message from a number I didn't recognize, saying I should at least keep paying the rent. Sure, like I'd be paying 2 rents when I could barely manage one. Especially for my family, the very people who couldn't care less about what I do or don't do. Update 5. I'm back to write again because things have happened. If it were something simple, I probably would have let it go, but everything that went down with my brother and my parents deserves an update. I don't know if many of you are still reading my story, but I think this is by far the most interesting post I've ever had to make. At least, that's how I see it, since I'm not the main character in this part of the story, not directly anyway. My parents showed up at my door at night, and to make it even more dramatic, it was raining. I don't know if they checked the weather before coming over to make their visit even more theatrical, or if they just got lucky. Though I'm not sure, lucky is the right word, because what happened was pretty ugly. There they were, standing at my door, a little wet, needing a place to stay. Which I found strange because they have a house, but I was wrong. Don't ask. I just told them they couldn't stay there. Besides everything we'd already been through, there's the little detail that my place is pretty small. But that didn't seem to worry them, since they were planning on taking over my room and making me sleep in the living room. Before closing the door, I asked why they weren't at their own house, and what they told me was the most unbelievable thing ever. My brother had kicked them out. According to them, my mom found out that my sister-in-law was stealing money from her. And honestly, I believe it, because once I caught her going through my room, and that whole, looking for a pen, excuse never sounded too convincing. So they had a confrontation, and my brother gave them until the end of the week to leave. But instead of leaving, my brother got them tickets to a show, and when they went, he changed the locks and left them out. And the worst part? The tickets were fake. They made the whole trip to the neighboring city to see the show, only to be humiliated at the door when someone told them the tickets were bogus. When they got back to their house, they tried to open the door with their keys and found they didn't work. They knocked on the door, but all they got was my brother's message, "Better us than you," and he never answered again. And that all happened just minutes before they showed up at my house. I asked why they hadn't called the police, and my mom said that's what they were planning to do, but it was too late and they just wanted to rest. That's why they decided to come stay with me. I told them again they couldn't stay there and that, if they needed a place, they could use the money I'd been giving them to pay for a hotel for a few nights. They protested, but I said, I have a job, and I've been paying my rent at your house for a long time. My brother, who can't hold down a job, or keep his little buddy in his pants until he's financially stable, gets to live for free, and now they expect more from me. It's time they started holding him accountable. Thanks for stopping by, and then I closed the door. I know some will think I'm the bad guy for leaving my parents out there, but there's nothing I can do for them. It's true I don't want them living with me, but even if I did, there isn't room for 4 people. It's been a few days since all this happened, and I'll let you know if my parents get their house back or not. Update 6. 1 month later, my parents have gotten their house back, but not in the condition they lost it. And I don't say that just because my brother and his family are gone, but because of all the damage they left behind. This is what happens when you let irresponsible people who don't pay anything stay in your house. Besides some items that were stolen, there's also the damage. Walls painted over, the upstairs bathroom flooded, which caused more destruction, and some broken windows. The only good news, at least for my nieces and nephews, is that Child Protective Services have taken them away. Due to the clear lack of parental care, one of the kids fell down the stairs and broke his arm. On top of forcibly taking over the house, my brother and his wife's situation is just a mess. I don't know what will happen to them now, but that's how things stand for the time being. My parents have refused to press charges against my brother because, according to what they've told others, not me, he did all that because he was going through a lot. I'm at a loss for words with my parents right now. I think they deserve this and even more. Update 7. For those of you who were worried about my nieces and nephews, this update is for you. My nieces and nephews have been taken in by my parents. Child Protective Services asked if I wanted or could take care of them since we're family, but you can probably guess what my answer was. I honestly think my parents should have sued. My brother at least had a car in his name. With that, they could have recovered some of the damages, but my parents can forgive anything my brother does, even all of this. Very different from how they treat the black sheep of the family, which is me, the one they've definitively cut off. It's ironic because, if I remember correctly, it used to be the other way around, but that's the story my parents tell anyone who asks about me. Although, honestly, I don't think many people believe them, knowing that it was my brother who caused all the damage. And as for my brother, he's living in that same car. I mean, the odds of someone letting you stay in their house are pretty slim when you've literally wrecked the last house that ever let you in.